Welcome back to the Chosen Life podcast. I'm your host, The Chosen Lawyer. Today, we have such a special episode. A young lady that I work out with every week over at our favorite gym, VSC. She is a model, social media influencer, body positivity. Raquel Benitah, welcome to the Chosen Life.
Thank you. What an intro.
I marinate on those all day when the episode's going to happen, sometimes for a week. And I was thinking where we're going to go with it. And you wear so many different hats that you can't just put you into one pigeonhole.
Right. Well, you nailed it. So thanks for having me. I'm very excited to chat.
Thank you for agreeing to be here.
Of course.
We got lots to cover today, by the way.
I know. Throw it at me. I'm ready.
Usually I send topics ahead of time. I did give you a little sneak peek.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite go there yet. I figured it's going to be more fun if we make it spontaneous. So
yeah, you're just throwing me right into the fire, and I'm here for it.
Life is much easier that way.
Yeah.
So firstly, how we met. It's funny because a lot of the guests, when they come on, people tell me, how do you know them? How we connect? And people from all walks of life, yet we're all interconnected in some way.
For sure.
For you and I, it's health and fitness, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it's over at Vaughan Strength and Conditioning.
Yeah.
Over in Vaughan, obviously. And how long have you been going there for?
I started going in September.
Okay.
When I used to be like an avid gym goer to like all the boutique fitness studios downtown Toronto.
Okay.
And because of COVID, they all closed and then they were opening and it was like very unknown. So my friend actually has been going to VSC for like years and training with John. So she was like, try VSC. So I started in September and I love it. And then we met.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny, like especially the morning people, right? Like when I used to do yoga as far as every day goes, and I'd be at the studio at 6 a.m, you see all the morning yogis, and you all got the same morning craziness, so like we all got to hang out. Same thing over at the gym. And then we see each other like pretty much every day, first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And, the thing for me, it's I don't talk a lot when I'm there. I'm just like there to work out. I'm there to get my work done and go, right? And when I see somebody that's very passionate and puts the effort in, I'm like, okay, like I want to see what they're about because I want to see like, how can I bring my game up? And the one thing is I've always noticed when you're there, you're dialed in, you got your intensity and you're really pushing and you love it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's not really a point to go if you're not going to like be into it, if you're just going to like dilly dally. But I also train with John and he won't let me slack off. So I might as well work hard while I'm there.
Amazing. And John and you, besides training together, also have a podcast together?
We do, called Doing the Work.
Doing the Work.
Yeah.
And as far as the relationship with John, like, did you guys instantly start working together or how did that come to be?
So I feel like it was a month or two into training. We would just like have really great conversations during our workouts. Yeah. And it's obviously only an hour. So we would be like wanting more and we would text after and like, he took a break from social media. I obviously have a love for social media. So I was
Social media loves you mean?
Yeah. We gotta love it both. So I was telling him like, you have to get back to social. You'll do really well on there. You have like a great opinion about so many things. And then I was like, you should actually start a podcast. And then we ended up starting one together just because we have a lot of similar opinions and similar interests, but also differing opinions. And we are so different. Like he's 10 years older than me. I'm a woman, he's a man, so it's just like a great perspective.
It blows me away because I know you had your podcast originally before the one with John, right? Mm-hmm. Confessions of a Thick Thigh?
Yeah, you got it.
I pronounced it right?
Yeah.
The double C in the thick really throws me off.
I know.
Like, and then, I'm thinking as far as when you and John came together, here are two people that are as opposite as you can get. Yeah. You can picture on the different spectrum of everything as far as life and philosophies. And these two are coming together and they're going to talk. I'm like, I got to hear this, But when I'm listening to you guys speak, you guys are on the same wavelength. It's amazing. You're total opposites, but like you flow together so well.
Yeah, I think that's why we really like mesh at the beginning. Because when we started training, we both didn't know each other. Because how would we ever meet each other? Like you said, we're from two different walks of life, so many years apart. But when we started chatting about different topics, whether it was like COVID or body image or fitness or mushrooms, like we all, like a lot of our opinions were the same. And we were like, why not start a podcast?
So I got to tell, like, people watching this are all over the world, right? Mm-hmm. But, to fully appreciate it, when you walk through the streets of Thornhill, through Vaughan, VSC, like you are a very well-known person. Like you are out there on social media. When my nieces found out that you're going to be on, they're like, Raquel. Like, they get so excited. Nice. And you have that kind of like, that energy that is exciting people.
Yeah.
And they're like, we can't wait to hear what you guys are going to say, because they're saying like, we're direct opposites, but you guys are be talking, we're going to be tuning in. So, that was very cool. Mm-hmm. And so from that end of things, to be able to appreciate what you're doing right now, help me understand, help the viewers understand, what is the Raquel story before you came to be where you are today, as far as on social media, modeling, body positivity, podcasting. Where did you begin? What are your origins?
Yeah, so I grew up in Toronto. I'm 23, by the way. And I've always been into health and fitness. But I grew up as a chubby child, so I struggled a lot with my body image and food and going to camp and being like the heaviest kid in my cabin or getting bullied and stuff. And I always hated my body and hated me and always wanted to change. So fast forward, when I was 16, I went to a nutritionist and lost 60 pounds. And I was like, oh, my life is finally good again. And I can fit into clothing that my friends wear and like have a date to prom, and everything was perfect. And then I went to university and I developed an eating disorder, which is called orthorexia. So if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's different to anorexia and bulimia, which we all hear about in movies and stuff. It's more like an obsession with food, worrying about what you're eating, like if it's quote unquote clean ingredients, and just like being really fixated on that. So I developed that, and that was about for like a year and a half, which just proves that like weight loss doesn't equal happiness. And that was something that I had to learn the hard way. But I think I learned it, and I'm so happy that I did have that experience, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. And then I went to therapy, which was like the first experience to therapy. And I just feel like throughout my whole life, like mental health and body image and all these things were so taboo. Like nobody talked about therapy. And if you went to therapy, you like had a mental issue. And if you had body image issues, you were like weak and all these things. And eating disorders were just like pushed under the rug. And I started like recovery, and I was feeling really good. And I was like, I think I want to start talking about this, because I started my Instagram when I was in first year, and that was like when I was in the thick of my eating disorder. And so I was like very fake on there, like everything was fine and I'm loving my life. And
how long ago was this about approximately?
This was about like 6 years ago.
6 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe a little bit more, when I was 18. Mm-hmm. And so on the flip side, I was like, maybe I should open up and be real and like explain to people what I've been going through, and like that it's okay to struggle, and that I'm here, and there's been like many more people before me and many people after me who will go through this experience, so why not share it? And I'm like a very open person. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that. So I was like, why not?
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's where I am today. During COVID, I switched my account from like the fitness weight loss fake vibe to body positivity, and then to body acceptance, when I learned that body positivity is more for marginalized groups, just out of respect. And that's where I am today.
And we'll definitely be talking about body positivity today. Absolutely. Anybody who talk to you and talk about what you're doing, that inevitably will come up.
For sure.
And I can tell you that where I connected with your Instagram account and reading through your stories is that I don't see myself in a 22, 23-year-old woman's body.
Right.
But I'm listening to your experiences, and I think about my own experiences. Mm-hmm. And I would almost be assured that anybody who comes and speaks to you and connects with you and tells you what they've been seeing, their story, and they feel the need to tell you their story immediately. Like, right. I'm listening to you, and I'm like, I have to tell her my story immediately,
Yeah.
And whether it's, if you grew up thin and then you put on a whole bunch of weight, and then you're kind of looking at yourself. I know from my own story, like I was always at a certain weight. That's how I was, like literally my whole life. And I always pretty much had the same waistline. And then one day it just went on me. Like I turned a certain age and it just went. And I looked at myself day after day, and I just felt so defeated. I said to myself, no matter what I'm going to do, it's never going to get better now. Yeah. And I gave up. And then I made the decision that I was going to make my changes. And then I do that. But it's amazing because, like you're saying, and I'm relating, no matter what age you are in life, when that light bulb goes on, all of a sudden you can have the image of what you think is like perfection, but it's a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. You have to maintain it. And no matter what you do, it feels like it's never enough. And then you got to be more and more and more. And having done bodybuilding, for example, and going through that, and like you're given a spreadsheet and you have to watch every morsel what you eat, and you feel that utter guilt from eating that one little piece of chocolate or one extra scoop of rice, and it's not healthy. It doesn't feel good to feel guilt ridden with food, right?
For sure.
And that's where I like, no matter what our body shapes are, no matter where we are in life, we all can have this kind of relationship with our bodies, with our food. And I can tell you that, at least for myself, I don't have that spreadsheet anymore where I'm weighing myself every single week. And I don't look in the mirror at all anymore. If I'm hitting my own targets in the gym and my clothes are wherever they're fitting on, I don't care anymore. And that feels good.
That's amazing.
But it takes, for some people, like it took me a lifetime to get there.
It takes people time. Like, people say that I'm well beyond my years because I'm doing what I'm doing now. But I think, like, it happened for me early in life, I guess. But for some people, like you said, I'm 23, I'm a woman. A lot of people think that they might not fit my niche or they might not get what they want out of my content. And I'm like, you don't have to follow me. I'm not here to sell myself. I'm here to tell you that, like, there is a positive way to live life that doesn't have to be about weight loss or restriction or constantly seeing, like, diet ads. And we've all lived that life. No matter where you come from, you're fed from the second you're born that you're not good enough, that you need to change your body, that you need to watch your calories and macros and all the shit, right?
Right.
And, like, it doesn't have to be like that.
It's I've seen you train with your mom. We could talk about her.
Yeah.
I thought you guys were sisters, but that is your mom.
That's my mom.
Yeah, she's doing amazing. Like, you can see as far as the work she's putting in.
Yeah.
Did you get her into the fitness world? Did she get you, or how did that work out?
So she actually got me into the fitness world.
Okay.
She loves going to the gym, and she's like, since I was a little kid, she brought me to fitness classes and dance classes and, like, all the fun little things. I got her into VSC, and to, like, CrossFit, because CrossFit is, like, a scary word for a lot of people.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, she sort of, like, got me into fitness, and then I've been teaching her a bunch of stuff now.
I gotta say, like, watching that way, like, I'm with my son, but it's funny when you have that influence, especially at home, and you can feed off of each other's energies, makes life so much easier,
For sure.
I think, to do it. I can say that I've seen a lot of people that are in, let's say, very bad relationships, whether it's parental, kids, their spouses, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is. When that person is not feeling the same realm as that other person, and they're saying to you, like, why are you putting all that time into the gym? And then especially those ones that supposedly love you and are supposed to take care of you, they're the ones who could be harshest on you,
For sure.
body-wise. And I think that's where a lot of us get our self-image at the end of the day. It's from either family, friends, or whatever be it. Like, a lot of it, they say it's society, and we look it up on the internet, and we see what the figure of a person should be, and that's what I want. But, for the people listening to this, how many people are close to us say, aren't you a little too chunky? Aren't you a little too skinny? Are you going to eat that? Are you sure about that? And those people are supposed to be so helpful, but those voices sink into our heads, and it hurts.
Yeah, I mean, when you're bullied in school, or when you're shamed, or when you see the Kardashians, like, losing 16 pounds for the Met Gala, you get affected and triggered, but it's like, you can brush those things off. When somebody who you love or one of your friends constantly is, like, pounding you down that you need to lose weight or you need to change or you shouldn't eat that, those are the things that stick. And especially, I'm, like, all about like, childhood wound healing right now, and talking to parents about, like, what to and not to say to their children about food in their bodies, because that's where it stems from. Like you said, it can happen in the media and the movies. Of course, we're never ever going to get rid of diet culture. It's a $1 trillion industry, and regardless, movies and TV shows are always going to have that stuff. But I think when you can have a good base at home and teach your children, like, it's okay to eat French fries, and you shouldn't even, like, bring a big deal to junk food and all of those things, I think that's where the difference is made, because kids spend majority of their life at home and at school, at least till they're, like, 16 or 17. So, if you could create those good roots at home where they feel supported and they don't feel the need to change their body or not eat carbohydrates, like, the amount of young kids who worry about the word fat, like, my 6-year-old cousin asked, why is she fat? I'm like, please don't ask that. Don't worry about that, But it's inevitable these days.
Absolutely. And I find, for a lot of us, high school are the toughest years. That's when the bodies are developing, hormones are going, bodies are changing, and it's a really hard time, and kids can be extremely, extremely cruel.
For sure.
I know I did not enjoy my high school experience at all. I wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. Some people love it, and all the power to them.
Yeah.
But I find that there's a level when you go to college, you go to university, you go into the workforce, and you meet people that they stop judging based on those items, and they just connect with you on real levels.
For sure.
And it's very, very refreshing.
Yeah. In high school, it was funny. It was sort of like a social experiment without it being intentional. But when I was, like, my own body size from grade 9 to 11, I like didn't have any attention from boys, and like I had my friends, but it was just like my friends. And then in grade 12, when I started losing weight, like everyone was like, oh, you look so good. And I like started talking to boys, and I was like, this is just shitty. Cause like, it's not even their fault for being shallow. Like we are just taught, you know, right, that like you judge people who are fat and you praise people who are skinny regardless of their personality. And it's just like such a shame.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely so. And in dating, especially people, it's funny. Some people have what they think are the quote unquote types, but people will say, oh, is she skinny? Is he heavy? What are they like? You know, and the first thing, they don't know the personality, don't know what to do for a living. It always, you know, starts off with superficial means.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I went back and I did search through your Instagram and to understand the context of it, because you were mentioning as far as from high school, you look at those pictures and you put the two people side by side where you are today. When you look at that person, you know, I don't even recognize her.
Yeah.
You know, she seems like such a different person now, right?
I know. Even when I started going to therapy, and then like, even now when I think back, I'm like, it's so crazy because like my smile was different, and like I felt like I was living in a bubble that wasn't my own body. And like, even though I was so skinny, and that was like all I had hoped for my whole life, you know, and like the jeans that I wore back then, I still have them because like, I don't know, I just can't get rid of them. And like when I look at them, I'm like, I don't even want to fit back into them. I'd rather be this size and like be able to just like be me. I'm like, I was never this confident to like sit down here and talk and like show my body on Instagram. You know, it's just, everybody goes through waves, and I feel like I finally found my way.
Your niche. Do you think that person that had lost that weight and had that relationship with themselves, if you had stayed on that path, do you think you would have been where you are today as far as modeling, as far as social media influencer, or do you think mentally you would not have evolved? You think it would have like held you back? I
think it would have for sure held me back. I think, like I said, I wasn't even like confident enough to do majority of the things that I do today. So back then I would have been like, oh, you want me to model for your brand? Like, why do you want me? You know, like just self-doubt and stuff, because I didn't even love myself back then. But yeah, I don't know if it would be the same, because I think I have such a passion for what I'm doing that it like shows. And even though I only have X amount of followers, like it's really not that many technically. It's like a core group of loyal people who like appreciate what I'm doing. So yeah, I don't know whether I would have evolved in a different niche, because it would have been more like fitness and weight loss, but I'm really glad that I'm not there.
It's funny. We were talking off camera before about podcasting, starting up a podcast, what that's like. And you bring that up as far as the influencer, then what's the measure of a success, right? And I get asked all the time, how many likes did you get? How many people are following? How much did they gain there? How many comments did you get? And there's so many different mediums now, right? Yeah. Between all the different ones. And that can become pressure in itself as far as what is a successful influencer and what isn't. And I can tell you, as far as like what we're doing, as far as, you know, speaking and spreading positivity, I stopped looking at that a long time ago. Like it's there and I know it's there, but if I enjoy it and the guest enjoys it and we get good comments back, you know, you can have like 100,000 views, but it's a lot of negativity. And you can have like 5,000 views and all of a sudden like, you know, 50 people liked it, but they're really engaged in it, you know? So there's all measure for all of us of what's success.
For sure.
That being said, you know, for what you're doing, you know, very few people can do that as far as actually being on social media, putting it all out there. Like it's all pretty much out there, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not holding back, you're getting change, you're going here, you're drinking this, I'm getting changed again. This is my new outfit. This is you're okay with that. And it's you know, to connect with your audience that way, did you find that as a struggle starting off? Was there limitations? How did that evolve for you to being the social media influencer you are today?
I mean, I definitely worry about judgment. I'm like a human. So even though I try not to, and I'm like, it is my body and I get to post what I want, there's always judgment. And there's always people who are going to, you know, think what you're doing is stupid and embarrassing and you should just get a real job and like all those comments, you know? And there's like a feature on Instagram that you can see people who like send your post, but you can't see who did it. So like when people send posts, you automatically think that they're like making fun of you or talking shit about you. So yeah, I obviously second guess myself, but at the same time, I'm like, look where I've come from by myself and look where I'm going. And I've made this into my job and I make money from it and I love it so much. And I wake up every day on the right side of the bed because I'm doing what I want to be doing. And So yeah, there is obviously the part of me that looks at likes and comments and hate comments and hateful DMs, and I'm like, but sorry for swearing.
That's okay. We'll edit it out.
But you know, I'm like, it is what it is. This is me. If you don't want, like, everybody has a choice. And I heard this amazing metaphor once on social media, or analogy, and it was that, like, when you go onto somebody's page, it's their living room, and you choose to sit in on their living room and their conversation. And if you don't like the conversation, then you can leave.
Yes.
But there's no need to come into the conversation and follow the conversation and then share your hateful comments. You have the choice to leave whenever you want, and you can even like block the person so you don't have to see their posts. But there's no need for those like trolls who sit, the keyboard warriors who sit and make fun of people, you know?
I gotta tell you, like, I love the trolls in a certain sense.
Yeah.
We talked before, you know, and I commend you on what you're doing at your age, because I can tell you at your age, I didn't have the guts to do what you're doing. I was blogging, and, you know, I'm a gifted writer. You know, there's, you know, certain, you know, things that God gives us, and mine was the ability to write and to talk. But I didn't have the courage to speak it, so I wrote it. And even when I interviewed, we did it all through writing, and that was my comfort zone. The thought of sitting and thinking of millions of people over the world watching it would freak the heck out of me, you know? But even still, when I was doing it from that realm, the worst thing I thought when you write something, when you speak something, is when there's really no reaction at all.
Yeah.
And I explain this to other guests when they come on and they're not used to it, and they said, "Oh my God, look at that comment. It's so hateful." I'm like, you have to understand, you hit a nerve, so you got a reaction. Good or bad, they are reacting, which means you put something out there.
Right.
That's a great thing. And if you don't succeed, you're not going to get trolls. Like, that's the way it goes.
For sure.
The more successful you're going to be, the more trolls you're going to get. You're just going to learn how you're going to manage it at the end of the day. But it's funny, like, even some trolls, when you do respond back to them and you call them out on it, but in a nice way, you can turn them around real quick, because it's very easy to just throw out hate and let it go. When somebody's actually calling you out on it and actually talking about why you're saying what you're saying, or maybe there's an inaccuracy, they're like, "Oh, wow, this person actually values my opinion," and then they become your biggest fan all of a sudden.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's so easy to hate on someone when you don't know them, like you said. Like, when you see a video of me or listen to a podcast that you were making, they don't know us. So, like, for them to say you suck or this is silly or whatever they're going to say, like, it's so simple. And I could do it too. Like, I watch people all the time who trigger me or who I don't agree with their stuff. And I would never write a hateful comment. I would write my opinion, but I wouldn't write a hateful comment, because it, A, doesn't get me anywhere, and B, like, it just hurts them for no reason. So I'd rather either DM somebody privately and have a like mature conversation or debate about a topic, or just pass by the content. John and I have been talking a lot about like triggers, because when we first met, I was like, "Oh, this triggered me and that triggered me and this person." And he was like, "Well, it's like, you know, when something triggers you, it's your responsibility, right?" And I was like, "No, it's not." And he's like, "Yeah, it is." And it just like has taught me that it totally is your responsibility, because everybody has a different opinion and everybody has a different niche. And you can find people who have the exact same opinion as you, and you can just watch those videos over and over again or listen to those podcasts, but it's not going to teach you things that are outside of your opinion and outside of your realm. And it's important to have both sides, right? So like, if something does trigger you, it's your responsibility to realize why it's triggering you and move on from that. You don't have to consume that content. That's the privilege of social. You get to follow and like whatever you want.
When we're talking like this, my image of the person sitting and watching this, whether it's on their phone, on their computer, or on TV, they pulled up a chair beside us, exactly like you said, and they're hanging out with us, and they get to watch. That's the conversation. Like, this is the kind of conversation we'd have sitting at the gym. Now we're putting it out there so people can enjoy it, certainly. So that being said, now, people that are listening, especially, let's say, the younger generation, you know, a young girl, young guy, inspiring one day to be a social media influencer. I read your story as far as you were working before, as far as that 9 to 5 or whatever you want to call that paycheck job. And you said, "That's it. I'm going to go out on my own and I'm going to go in a different direction." How difficult was it to do that, to make that decision? And how long ago was that? And then what is the life of a social media influencer as far as, you know, creating your content? If you can walk us through that.
Yeah. So I quit my job in October. Now it's May. So I guess, what is that?
About half a year, yeah.
Yeah, half a year ago. I just decided that it was time to invest in myself. You're never going to succeed if you're you know, if you have so much on your plate and you're spreading yourself too thin. And I felt like I was doing that. I would like be at work and go to the bathroom and answer emails for my personal stuff. And then I was like, what is this life? Like, I can quit. It's not a big deal. And I'm really lucky to have parents who support me. So I called my parents and I was like, listen, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to try and do this full time. And I know that if I fall, you will support me, but I don't want to lean on that. I want to, if I fail, I'll get back up. And if I succeed, then awesome. And so they were like, you know what, do it. Why not? So I quit, and then my podcast started, and it was just up from there. Obviously I'm not making as much money as I would hope to, but it's been half a year, and you're not going to be making, you know, $500K the first year that you start, or even $100K. And it is what it is. But, you have to just believe in yourself and be true to who you are. And that's when people start to gain traction, and also realize that you don't need to have 1 million followers to be considered a quote unquote influencer or do social as your full-time job. During COVID, TikTok blew up, and everybody's a TikToker now. And the opportunity there is crazy. And there's videos upon videos every day about people who are like, don't underestimate the power of social media and the paycheck that you can get. So it's like, if you want to do influencing or social media or whatever you want to call it, I would dive right in, post consistently, be honest with yourself, like what you actually want to be posting, and find a niche, and you'll go from there.
So on a typical day, as far as you're posting, because you're a very consistent poster, and there's different mediums, certainly. I mean, we got Twitter, we got Facebook, sure. But really, at the end of the day, it falls down to Instagram and TikTok for the most part, right? Yeah. And you look at your stories, like, they call it stories. Yours is a novel. Yeah. Like, there's, like, literally 50 stories going at a time, right? Yeah. Plus your posts. Does it like, in all seriousness, like, does it happen randomly? Is there, like, a board the day before, like, as far as what you're going to be doing? How do you plan out your stories and posts on a daily basis?
Yeah, so it's funny because I get asked this question a lot. Okay. And I know that some influencers have everything like in a calendar down to a T with a checklist. I'm like, no, not me. I am very like spontaneous in the moment. You know, I obviously do plan things. Like when I have a brand collaboration, I have to plan ahead and send them the content and get it approved and stuff. But for me, posts I will plan. Stories though are very like on the go. I used to be super on the go. Now I'm trying to like live in the moment and not really live through my phone. It took a while to realize that though. So I'll like do something and then I'll save I'll like save the video or save the photo and post it later on. So I'm not missing out in the moment. But yeah, I'm pretty on the go. I feel like people see that and they like it, and it's more relatable than like me curating perfect content with like perfect everything. It's like, that's so Instagram like 2012, 2015, you know, where it's like perfect. I think everybody's more into like just, you know, whip out your phone and talk to your phone. Yeah. Yeah,
it seems so. But that being said, and I figured that there's a lot of spontaneity, especially on the stories end of it. But a lot of the posts do come up very clean, and I think that's just practice. That's just generally doing so many of them that it happens that way. Yeah. But between influencing, podcasting, modeling, like, your days are spoken for, I presume. Like,
yes,
you know,
my days are spoken for. And I'm a nutritionist, so I work at a clinic.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Yes, okay. Yes, I know. I didn't mention it, but I work at a clinic twice a week doing holistic nutrition. So that fills my week as well.
What's a background on holistic nutrition? How does one go about?
So it's pretty funny because I actually, when I was in grade 12 and I went to a nutritionist and lost that weight, I fell in love with nutrition. I was like, this is so awesome, before I realized that I was a little disordered. Yes. So after university, I went to a program in Toronto for a year, a holistic nutrition program.
Amazing.
And holistic nutrition is more so just like embodying the entire person and asking them more questions rather than about just food and digestion, more about like their entire being and their entire lifestyle, and focusing on like food as medicine. So I don't know, it just aligns with me and I love it.
It's amazing how many of us in this world, you know, we get attracted to that. And you talked about clean eating and everything else. I know for myself, it's the feel-good method. It's what my body wants. That's what I go based on at the end of the day. My body naturally wants some things. It wants to reject things. But I know, especially as I'm getting older, it wants cleaner and cleaner food.
For sure.
And from that end of it, you know, if I don't have to go to a drugstore and pop a pill, if I can figure out a way to do it naturally, I'd rather go that route. As you know, I think a lot of people are realizing. And even medical doctors are getting trained in these areas and are realizing that, you know what, exercise, nutrition makes a big difference.
For sure.
You know, so it's really great to see that.
Yeah.
So shifting over from there, building up social media, influencing, and then how does podcasting come to you out of all things? Because we all found our particular paths. How did you get to yours?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, my Instagram stories are more of a novel than a story. And I just realized that like I can talk forever, and you can only get so much across on an app that people lose focus on, like after you watch 5 or 10 stories, you're like, okay, next person, I'm bored of Raquel, or I'm bored of whoever. So I was like, I'm going to start a podcast because I can talk for hours and make different episodes and have guests, and it's like unlimited. It's my topics. I can swear or not. I don't get censored. So I decided to start my podcast, and it's been really great.
And and like we said, we have the 2 of them, right?
Yes.
So what is the difference? So we got Confessions of a Thick Thigh, and we have Doing the Work, right?
Yes.
Which it's heavy load doing one of them, let alone 2 of them, right? Episodes every week.
Yeah.
And what do you feel is the difference between the 2? What are the goals of each of those podcasts?
Yeah, so Confessions of a Thick Thigh is my personal podcast on the Call-In app. Now it's on Apple and Spotify. And that's more so like everything that we've talked about, like body image, disordered eating, nutrition, having guests who are like also in the social media realm, but also fitness and nutrition and that kind of stuff. So it sort of like stays like that. But I also talk about like female stuff or like random things, and then John and I, our podcast is called Doing the Work, and it's a lot of fitness and body image as well, and nutrition, but it's also, like I mentioned, childhood wound healing and taking responsibility for your emotions, and more so like stuff like that. John's like really intelligent, and like I said,
he's levels, like he's on another planet somewhere.
He really is. And he's done a lot of like self-work and internal work, and I haven't, so he's really helped me like realize that internal work, and again, things like therapy and stuff like that does not mean that you're weak. It actually means that you're like doing good for yourself, and also just like how to deal with certain situations in life. So
Confessions of a Thick Thigh really, in my mind, is almost like a diary.
Yeah.
It feels like it's a confessional diary.
That is,
like what was the Diary of a Wimpy Kid? That we all, either read or had kids that read them, right? And it's almost like sharing like your pain, but it's healing because you're putting out there what your thoughts are, good or bad.
Yeah.
And being able to share that with the world. And with John, it's almost like it's therapy of a different level. It's therapy for each other.
For sure.
And it's just putting out good information.
Yeah, totally. It's been really fun to have a podcast with someone else because you can bounce ideas off of each other.
1,000%.
Just like what we're doing right now. It's like I've found it really tough with Confessions to talk to the wall because I'm talking to myself. But I really just I have to plan ahead, come up with topics, and also guests really help.
I can tell you that when I was starting up this one here as The Chosen Life, I had a lot of opinions, from a lot of people that did not do this, never done it, will never do it, but they still had their opinions of what's going to succeed and what's not.
For sure.
And it's tough because, especially trusted people, you want to take in what they want to say, but at the end of the day, you got to chart your own course. They may not agree with the direction, may not agree how your format's going to be, but as long as you believe in it, if the audience is connecting with it, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Exactly.
And for people that are starting off, when they're starting off a new podcast, I ask them at the end of the day, what is your journey? Like, what is the purpose of this? What do you want to have out there? And when they don't have like their main speech or their main logo as far as like what they want to put out for people, and they're just, I'm just going to talk, that's one thing,
Yeah.
I tell them, you may have to figure out like, ultimately who do you want to reach, why you're doing this, because you're going to be doing this week after week after week. And eventually, like, if you're doing something very, very niche, you may burn out really quick because you're like, you got to start repeating yourself. It's the same story. I know for myself, like I was really heavy into podcasts like during COVID and like listening to them every day pretty much. But I get really bored of them. Like it's like, it's the same people talking about the exact same topic every single one, it felt like. And I'm like, I can't deal with this. I need something a little differentiated.
For sure.
And that's where you're saying, when you're bringing on different guests and you go in different directions, like, people appreciate that for sure. Like,
sure.
But there's thought that goes into that. Like, that doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said earlier, people are so quick to judge or tell you that it's not going to succeed, but it's like, you haven't done it, right? So like, rather than thinking that social media isn't a real job or podcasting is stupid or whatever, it's like, let me give it a try. And it really does take a special person to be able to put yourself out there and not worry about judgment, or at least not let it affect you as much as other people might,
Which is a perfect segue to what I see is where you're branching into, like, this is like the arena, you know, everything you're doing is all kind of building up into the modeling career.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, you know, and everybody can say it's kind of chicken and egg, and they're saying one is this, one is, no, it's really, at the end of the way I see it is everything else you're doing is really building you up to that. And you kind of found your niche, your calling, I would say. And that's a really exciting industry, extremely scary. Yeah. A lot of people say they want to be models, and they cannot do that. Like, you know, like they hide behind the curtain, like they put on their outfit, and they can't even go show it to their parent, let alone put out there to the world. So you're putting on that stuff, and you're putting it out there. Like, how long did you know you were going to be a model? When did that brainchild come to you, and how have you been finding it?
So I didn't actually know I was going to be a model. It's funny to say that out loud because, like, I've only really done like 5 shoots. Yes. But it just happened randomly. Like when I first started my Instagram, brands would reach out, like when I was like really little, and they would say, "Oh, we just want you to like come and do a shoot with these like crackers or this smoothie." And I was like, "Okay, that's fun." And then I had my first like actual paid gig a few months ago, and I've had like 3 since then. And I made a joke on my story, and I was like, "Should I put model in my bio?" And I did, and people obviously talked about it because they sent the stories. But I was like, you know what? This is my life. Like, back to what I said, it's me that I'm doing this, and like I have a goal in mind, so I might as well go for it. But modeling has been really fun, and I think that because of where I've come from, and like because I live in a quote unquote larger body, and like have like come into the realm of body acceptance, I think that has also opened up a lot of doors for me, because brands are trying to be more inclusive. And when you see models, you still see skinny models, skinny white women walking down the runway, but you are also now seeing people of color and people in larger bodies actually being shown and represented, which is a breath of fresh air, and I am very happy to be part of that.
I love that.
Yeah.
And from that end of it, like, do you start looking for an agent for that? Like, do you start like movies? Like, where do you see this going? Because, you know, once it starts going, you know, all of a sudden, like, you know, in my head, I'm like, okay, clothing line, movies, like, there's so many things that it can lead to, right? For sure. Do you foresee where it's going yet, or what's the game plan?
I don't know. Sometimes I think so big and then I get overwhelmed. So I'm like, maybe I'll keep it small for now and just do like random gigs here and there. Yeah. But yeah, I'm very like open to everything. If I got an email tomorrow about being on a TV show, who knows where it would take me, or other shoots. But right now I'm just sort of having fun with it and seeing where it goes. So again, that young person listening, and they're saying, wow, you know, that's so cool. You know, she's grown into this kind of role. I've always wanted to be a model. That sounds so interesting. And even when I look over here, like this picture, right? Yeah. I'm not a model by any stretch. You know, I had one great picture on one great day that a friend took, and that kind of blew up. That wasn't intended to be, and that became my logo. Right. But every time I look at that picture, I say to myself, I'm modeling. This is awesome, you know? And it's a really good feeling, you know? And I'm sure every time, you know, for either a product or a service or what be it, when you see yourself out there, it's got to be, you know, the greatest feeling. You know? It is a good feeling. I did a shoot for a bathing suit company, and like old me would be so embarrassed to wear a bathing suit, and then new me is like very proud of that. And I clicked on their website the day of the launch, and like my face was on the front of it, and I was like, it's actually happening. And like, it was very exciting, because whether like the money that came with it was great, it was like a job, but just like to see where I've come from, because like things can get happen very quickly, like podcast, this, that, TikTok, you know, modeling shoot. And then I like sit back and I'm like, I can't believe where I've come from in the past 5 years, from like someone who was so embarrassed and ashamed when I was 60 pounds lighter to where I am today. Is just like 2 different people, and it just makes me happy. So I think then, as far as modeling and social media influencing, it still comes back to VSC, comes back to the work, you know, doing the work, the exercise, and then nutrition and everything else. And there's a word that you use, and I had my note here specifically, and I put it in brackets, and I'm glad you raised it. I hate the word diet. Yeah. I just do not like it whatsoever. For me, I always think of lifestyle. It's a lifestyle we choose. And there's so many people I've seen throughout my life that are saying, I need a quick fix. I need to do a crash diet. I need to go run a marathon. I need to go do a boot camp. I must fix this immediately. And
from everything I've ever done and I've ever seen from people to succeed, it's like whatever you're going to be getting to, it's slow and it's steady. It's sometimes it's painful. It's not always the best. You know, some sacrificing involved to wherever you got to go.
Right.
But that diet, the idea you have to pop pills for it, or you got to starve yourself, or you have to take in a whole bunch of calories to do it. I don't like those extremes one way or the other. I just think it's an unhealthy way to do it. Your body, reacts to it, and it just creates this unhealthy mental attitude with it. For sure. But that being said, with it, as far as do you feel like, for example, like from a modeling standpoint, there's still the categorization as far as like skinny model, plus size models, and all this. And I wish they would just get rid of all these labels and it just be model. But when somebody is in one realm, do you think that they get typecasted into it, that it could be, now I feel the pressure that I have to stay in this body because I'm going to, like, for example, I've read before about actors and actresses that were heavier. And they said, if I lose that weight, I'm no longer the funny big guy anymore. Right. Or I'm no longer the voluptuous woman. I'm going to lose all my roles. Versus a person who's also very skinny and saying that I have to keep the skinniness, or because if I put on the weight, I'm not going to have that character anymore. Yeah. So do you think that it almost becomes a pressure the other way to maintain it? For sure. Yeah, there's pressure with any body type. I think, especially when it's your job, you're like, I have to stay like this. And I've thought of that too. I'm like, what if I did want to lose weight? Because I'm not anti-weight loss. I'm just anti-toxic diet culture. Yes. So like, what if I did want to lose weight? Like, would people think that I'm a fraud, or that I don't actually like my body, or that I'm like putting out an image, like a false image? And that's not how it is. I think for me, I talk about body acceptance rather than body positivity, especially because I'm about like accepting your body in the now, and you are allowed to change it. If you want to get lip injections, if you want to lose weight or gain weight, like, who cares, right? Like, everyone's like, if you get Botox, you don't actually like your body. And I'm like, well, that's just that person, like, everyone's allowed to do what they want. But back to modeling and acting, I think there's for sure pressure to stay in your like weight class. If you want to talk like boxing or UFC, like, even with that stuff, like, you have to stay in a certain weight class in order to fight. Just like you have to be in a certain weight class to be considered plus size or petite or whatever it is. So I think the pressure is crazy. And I think when people tell their like modeling stories, when modeling agencies are like, you have to lose 5 pounds and they're already 100 pounds, I'm like, how could you say that to someone? But honestly, it's the industry, and there is change that's happening, thank God, but it's the industry, and it's for people like Ashley Graham, who's a plus size model, who I love. And like, but it's crazy because like, she's a plus size model. She is stunning, and she's like hardly plus size. And like, she's considered a plus size model. Which blows my mind. Exactly. I wouldn't. Yeah. If we're gonna say who the poster child for body positivity, you may disagree with me, I would say Lizzo. Yeah. As far as embracing who you are, using what you got. Did you see the one of her that she was going up into the airplane? Yeah, I love her. So she goes up to the airplane, and her butt's just out there. Yeah. That's it. There's nothing covering it, just butt's out there, and she's loving it. And you read the comments, like, first of all, she's followed by millions and millions of people, right? She's world famous. Yeah. She's absolutely embraced who she is. And, as far as from her career, as far as singing, as far as acting, modeling, etc., I would say she literally would be the poster child in the States. For sure. But on that token, I think to myself, take her versus, let's say, Kate Moss. Back when I was growing up, it was Kate Moss, and people still don't know who Kate Moss is. Each of them, they are, as different as it gets, and they each have their pressures to maintain who they are. Right. If Lizzo went, and exactly like you thought, I was thinking to myself, if Lizzo went and said, you know what, I'm going to lose a bunch of weight, I'm going to drop 60 pounds, 80 pounds, whatever it is, and she turns into Kate Moss tomorrow, I think a lot of people would say she's a fraud. She was spreading all this body positivity, and now it's gone. And it's a shame that all of a sudden now you have to be in one realm because you're spreading a message where the message could be, I could be anything, literally, And that's one of the things that you always say in your body positivity. It's not the shape of the body. Yeah. It's your mindset and your relationship with your body. For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think, again, going back to like people thinking that they might not be able to relate to my content because they might not be a 23-year-old girl in a body that looks like mine. Body acceptance or
body positivity or whatever you want to use, it's not only your physical body. It could be your mental, emotional, like it could be in a disabled body. So it really does fit for anybody. And we all have something about us that we don't like. I just talk about the things that I personally don't like about myself, but you might have something else. So it really is a great niche to look at other hashtags or other influencers or people like Lizzo, because it just shows you that like you can live a life that you do accept yourself or like yourself. And I love Lizzo so much, and she actually has a new TV show. I think it's on Amazon Prime.
Yes.
And she's like casting backup dancers for her tour. Yes. And she like only casts plus size women, and it's amazing. And I just think what she's doing is incredible. And she's hilarious. And it actually did happen to her during COVID. She went on a juice cleanse and like turned vegan, and people started freaking out because apparently if you go on a juice cleanse or you turn vegan, you want to lose weight. People equate those two things. Yes. And I get it, because she's always preached like anti-diet and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, if someone wants to drink green juice or be vegan, like let them live. She didn't I don't know, she didn't wilt away, and she also, like, that's her life, and she's still promoting amazing things.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you did see her as a role model, like, as far as in the body positivity movement. So you are, I mean, if you generally, you know, if you're into confident people, somebody that embraces themselves and says, you know, don't worry about your body shape, do your thing, that's Lizzo, in my mind.
Yeah.
Where I struggle, you know, for myself, for example, and everybody's different. Everybody's very, very different. I'll put that out there right away. Just because one person's experience is one end doesn't mean the other people are going to have that. When I made my decision to drop my weight, it was purely health. It was like the doctor coming and saying, like, you're going to start going on cholesterol meds if you don't go and fix this situation. And that's one of the things I struggle with from a health perspective versus body positivity is when I see people when they're choosing, you know, I'm embracing myself, I don't care. But then, you know, as far as from the health standpoint of it, you know, diabetes and what can happen to cholesterol and things that people can cause themselves, you know, premature aging, you know, when people don't look after themselves. But then, you know, like we started this whole thing off, you're at the gym. You're doing it. Yeah. You're putting in your work and you're eating well. And so, you know, people have this image that if you're going to be going to the gym and eating well, it's automatically going to look like this or it's going to look like that, right? Doesn't have to be. Yeah,
that's my issue with it, is like people automatically judge. And I've had a lot of comments that I promote obesity, and I'm just like, where? Like, prove to me that I do. I'm a nutritionist who does care a lot about the food and the quality, but I also will eat French fries and a milkshake because I'm a human. And I do go to the gym all the time, and I promote healthy lifestyle, which is balanced. Healthy lifestyle is not eating chicken and broccoli and going to the gym every day. It's not healthy, as we both know. You can count your macros and you can lift 100 pounds and do whatever, but if you're not living life, then like your stress is probably what's aging you, not, you know, the extra 10 pounds on your waist. So I think, of course, there are things to be considered with obesity, like health problems. I think it's very naive to say that no matter how large you are, health doesn't matter. I think it does, of course. But I also think that if somebody does want to live in a body that is larger or smaller or whatever, that's their prerogative. You know, we all know the consequences of living in our bodies, and we all feel a certain way every day. And if you feel sluggish every day and you're okay with that, then that's you. And if you don't want to feel like that, then, you know, there's ways to fix that. But I think it's just like the judgment that kills me. Like random people will judge you for eating McDonald's if you're in a larger body, but then in a smaller body, it's like, oh yeah, go you. Like you might as well live your life and enjoy, you know? So there's always going to be judgment and things like that. Absolutely.
I can tell you it's also, there's the idea of extremes. You know, I can tell you when I was at my most obese state, you know, my lunch every day was a Philly cheesesteak sandwich, a heaping poutine, and unlimited Sprite. That was my lunch every day for about a year.
Right.
And that definitely would cause that, for sure. You know, no question about it. But where people, you know, people have to understand, you know, it's very easy to judge other people, but until you live in their shoes, where like, two people can sit and eat the same meals day by day, go to the gym, do the same workouts, and their bodies react differently.
For sure.
I can't tell you times, going in yoga, people are saying, you know, how can that person be 300 pounds and doing yoga? Well, they do yoga almost every day. They actually are quite healthy eating, and that's their body frame. Like, our bodies are all very different.
For sure.
People automatically equate, if you eat a certain way and you exercise a certain way, your body will automatically translate into this. Right. And it's not quite the thing. And probably you can get to a certain state if you go past a certain point. But going to that state where, okay, I have to work out 6 days a week. Like you're saying, I got to eat chicken and broccoli every day for the rest of my life. That's like a death sentence for some people, and they can't do that.
Right.
So, finding that balance at the end of the day, and everybody's got to find their balance. In my mind, if you're healthy, your body's reacting well, and you feel good, then you're not hurting anybody.
For sure.
Then why is it an issue?
Yep, I do agree.
Yeah.
I love that. I think, like I mentioned about the 10 pounds, like if living in a body that's 10 or 20 pounds over your goal weight is going to help you live your life, and like you can eat the ice cream on the weekend with your kids and not feel guilty for it, or you can go out on a date night and like not feel bad about drinking alcohol, then that's where you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be 10 or 20 pounds lighter living in a body where you can only eat X, Y, and Z, and if you eat salt and you gain weight on the scale, then you're stressed. It's like, it's just not a life.
So when people speak to you and people come to you, like anybody who's a social media influencer, they'll come to you, you have beautiful glowing skin, you're feeling good about yourself. They're saying, I want to look like that. I want to have that glowing skin. I want to feel good. People come to you and tell you, what do you do? What should I do? Do people ask you for tips all the time as far as what you're maintaining yourself as far as for them?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's so easy to like look at someone from the outside and be like, I want to do what you're doing. Yeah. But like you just said, if you do what I'm doing, your body's not going to react the same way that my body reacts. So, I mean, I give people like blanket things, like obviously you should be eating, good quality food and drinking water and exercising, but it's like the boring things that people don't want to hear that are the things that go the longest, like what I just said. Like people want like, what kind of matcha should I drink, or what kind of skincare should I do? And I'm like, those aren't really the things that like equate to health. Those are just like the extra fun things. Even like when I put mushroom drops in my coffee, I do those because I personally think there's a benefit, but that doesn't mean that it's like making me any healthier than the next person. So it's like the simple things, good quality produce and lots of it, and water and sunshine and those simple things.
I love those things.
Yeah.
So I tell people there's 4 keys of life. 5 if you want to get to a next level, but 4, exercise, nutrition, sleep, water.
For sure.
You do those 4 things, I think your life will be very good.
Yeah.
And then if you're ready for mindfulness and meditation, then you can go to another realm.
Yeah.
But, listening to what you're saying, you're a nutritionist yourself, so you're helping people with nutrition. You came to VSC, you work with John, I work with Jared, finding those, I find if you're trying to do things on your own, especially when you're a novice, have no idea, you're almost, doomed to fail. Like that's just, there's no way around that, especially when you don't have the training in it and understanding. If you want to get into gym, you want to go to yoga, getting personal training, going into group classes, whatever you got to do to be active, go for it. Speak to people. Nutrition, go speak to Raquel, find out, what I can incorporate to my food.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is not, again, going in, I got to gain a bunch of weight or I got to lose a bunch of weight. It's how do I feel up here?
Exactly.
People don't realize what you're putting in your body food-wise, the training you're doing, it's not necessarily for the physical part, it's making your mind feel amazing. Because I don't know about you, when I'm not training and I'm not eating what makes me happy, I'm not happy.
Of course, me
Period.
neither.
Yeah,
I injured my back like 2 weeks ago, and I haven't trained with John in 2 weeks, and I'm like, oh my God, I need to get back, But like back to the nutrition aspect of it, I think it's so important to, if you want to lose weight or whatever your goals are, gain muscle, whatever, that's you. I support it. I think a huge part of nutrition that is missing in a lot of people's lives is food freedom and food guilt and getting that out. So I think a healthy relationship with food is what should come first, because that's what makes you ultimately, feel good about the food you're eating. And if you're constantly stressed, the food that you're eating isn't being digested and absorbed in its most optimal way. So I think back to that, like nutrition, I'm personally not a weight loss nutritionist. I'm a food freedom nutritionist or a body image nutritionist, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think everyone finds their way and what's good for them, and that's it.
Yeah, just find your way. It doesn't have to be one extreme or another.
Yeah.
But at the end, they find something that your body feels to be happy and your mind seems to be happy.
For sure.
So now going into the modeling realm of it, I've seen, the next topic I wanted to bring about, and this one seems to be very popular, and I was curious about your thoughts on OnlyFans.
Oh.
So whether you're a celebrity or somebody starting off, I've seen people generating a ton of money, and doing very, very little with it, but it's because there is a demand for it.
For sure.
And how does a person, when they get into the modeling realm and get into the social media part, have you thought about it, and what are your thoughts on it?
So I have thought about it.
Yes.
I think that I personally don't have OnlyFans because there is such a judgment around it and such a taboo-ness about it. It's definitely a newer platform, and I think a lot of people use it for not for like negative things, but I think especially women are judged when they're on OnlyFans because people think it's like inappropriate. So no, I haven't done it, but I've definitely thought about it because the income is crazy.
Yes.
And the audience that you reach is also crazy.
Yes.
But I don't know. I don't know if I'm into it, if I'm being honest.
No, that's okay.
Maybe in the future.
I put a lot of thought into it as far as seeing it because if you're ever like bored at night, you would type into YouTube, OnlyFans horror stories, and they have these cartoons, right? You're like, wow, I never do that.
Right.
But then you listen to Paige Van Zandt, MMA fighter / boxer / wrestler, and she says, my OnlyFans generates me more money in a month than I ever would have made fighting,
Crazy.
And I've known people locally here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, that they're models. They're not doing a lot of modeling, but they have their loyal group in OnlyFans. And it doesn't mean prostitution, doesn't mean, which people can do. They can put nudity on there. They can put a bunch of graphic. I don't know about OnlyFans if they do that anymore, but there's other platforms that are very similar. So a person can decide how much they want to go to it. But the idea came to my head because one day you're modeling, like underwears and bras and bathing suits. And it's that simple that if that got blurred out and it got put onto OnlyFans and you have a loyal group, that could be exclusive content, right?
For sure.
And people pay big money for that. And I always thought, I asked somebody who's doing that I met, and I said, what was the decision there? And they said, like, my money is crazy. Like, I'm absolutely, like, killing it. I get to make my schedule. Somebody does my shoots for me. And they're saying, like, it's a no-brainer. But then, like you said, especially when you go into the workforce, if you're working in an office and those people know you're on OnlyFans, there's, like, a stigma to it. But it shouldn't be. People should, it's supposed to be the whole thing about liberation, feel comfortable in your own skin, but no, it's funny. In our society, it's still there, one form or another.
For sure. It's like, I feel like it's sort of like when Facebook started and you would look to hire someone and the first thing you would do is look at their Facebook page or like see if they are drinking alcohol or doing whatever. It's like now nobody really cares about that because like, social media is social media and the person who you see on there might be different than the person in person.
Yes.
But yeah, I think people definitely do judge based on OnlyFans and if you have it and what you're using it for. And I think, like you just said, that UFC fighter or MMA, there's definitely good ways to use it. And you don't have to use nudity or profanity or any of that stuff. So maybe I will look into it because,
So Paige Van Zandt.
Yeah.
So she's not naked. She's pretty close as far as other stuff she generally posts, but she's married. She's now getting into professional wrestling. So she went from being an MMA fighter to bare knuckles boxing to wrestler. But she's putting modeling pictures out on her content for her fans.
Right.
And I see other wrestlers are doing that in independent scenes. And because I read a lot about wrestling. I love wrestling. I love boxing.
Yeah.
And that inevitably comes up. But the thing I'm noticing consistently, they're saying that for a professional athlete point of view, especially women, they're saying, I'm making a heck of a lot more money putting this exclusive content out here for my fans than I ever did professionally fighting. There's something wrong here.
Something very wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. I think it's an awesome revenue stream. And I think if you find your niche on there, then go for it. Because honestly, Instagram and other social media platforms are kind of plummeting for creators especially. They're not really prioritizing us, which is crappy. But TikTok is definitely the way to go. But OnlyFans, maybe I'll look into it after this.
Well, sorry, Mom, but I think she'd be making $1 million a year easily doing that.
Yeah,
so.
My mom's going to yell at you the next time she sees you at the gym.
Whatever, just buy her a nice bracelet at Tiffany's and she'll understand.
For sure.
Wonderful. Well, won't keep you too much longer. Like, I know you're a very busy schedule. It took us a little bit of time to get this thing organized, but really appreciate, taking the time today for the viewers, talking about really positive subjects, getting to know you. Now, that being said, we got to know your story, got to know where you're at today. I'm going to harp on, I'm going to ask you, 2022 and beyond, where's Raquel headed? Where can we see you? And where do you see yourself going?
Well, I think I see myself doing what I'm doing right now, but I want to move to New York. That is my dream. I've dreamt of that since I was 11 years old, and it's like held true. I really want to do it, and COVID sort of ruined that. I was so close to getting there, but yeah, I want to move to New York. I think there's incredible opportunity there, and it's just another beautiful city like Toronto. Well, it's actually not so beautiful, but
it's like Toronto on steroids.
Yeah, people are like, why do you want to move to New York? It's like crazy. I'm like, I don't know, the anxiety and like the pollution and the hustle and bustle just like fuels a fire inside of me. So yeah, maybe do that and just continue on with social and podcasting and meeting new people.
Amazing. Well, we're excited for your future.
Thank you.
And your present. Appreciate you joining us today, and we'll have you back on, I'm sure, as the story continues.
Would love to.
Amazing. We'll keep following you on social media, and we'll have all your handles on the episodes. People can find you and your podcast.
Perfect. Thank you.
So thank you again for taking time for us today, Raquel.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And we sign off. We do the flex.
Oh, yes. We do the flex.
Keep living the chosen life. Cheers.